Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. In this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place in Kherson and Zaporozhye area during the previous night at the local time. First we're going to start with Kherson, as after the Russians managed to force the Ukrainians to leave their bank of the river of Dnipro River, the Ukrainians launched massive artillery strikes against the discovered Russian positions that they managed to find during the Battle of Kozachye Lakheri. And for example, there was a video from the Ukrainian side how they managed to destroy another radar that the Russians were using in Aleshki to support their connection between the forces. The Russians also discovered a lot of Ukrainian artillery positions during the previous days, and today, according to the Russian sources, they managed to destroy another position of Ukrainian forces, another accumulation of Ukrainian forces in the vicinity of Tamina Balka, the infantry or marines that Ukrainians were probably planning to use for another landing operation on the Russian bank of the river. Now we're moving further to Zaporozhye area, and this night there were a lot of events took place in this area, and we will discuss them one by one. First of all, the Russians continue making massive drone attacks in the fields between Robotino and Verbovo during the previous nights. A lot of videos were published by the Russians in this area. A lot of drone strikes, a lot of manpower, lots of armored vehicles were destroyed or damaged, and furthermore the Russians continue attacking the Ukrainian positions along the ways of attack in direction of this between these two settlements. For example, in this video we see how the Russians discovered the movement of Ukrainian forces, and after that the Russians launched the attacks with the cluster rounds. Furthermore, the Russian sources reported that Ukrainians continue sending more and more forces, and this morning of the local time, on the 17th of August, the Ukrainians continue sending more forces in the northern part of Robotino. And basically, what is the current situation? As we know, the Ukrainians do have possibility, and they did establish control over the northern part of the settlement, but they have entered their infantry inside of this area. There are still clashes, there are very clashes in the central part, but there are a lot of problems with supplying and supporting these forces, this group of Ukrainian forces in the settlement by the roads that goes from the north and from the east, because all these roads are under complete Russian fire control. And furthermore, not just under fire control, the Russians use a tactic of distance mining. We haven't talked about this situation for a very long time. For example, the Ukrainians published the video, how they managed to get the video of a process of mining, and the Ukrainian soldiers are saying that sometimes their demining equipment goes in front of them, and the mining equipment managed to demine the fields, and let's say in an hour the Ukrainian infantry and armored vehicles started movement along this demining area, and they see that almost nothing have changed because the Russians can do this process very often and very fast. So just using the mining equipment, the effectiveness of using the mining of equipment is reduced to zero, almost to zero, by the Russian forces. Also, the Russians published another video how they destroyed another Ukrainian convoy that was heading in direction of Robotino, probably trying to send some reinforcements and reserves and so on, but the Russians discovered that convoy on the move and destroyed with artillery fire. So the situation with Robotino is very difficult. The Ukrainians are losing significant number of forces. Currently, according to the Russian sources, for some reason the Ukrainians took a decision to change their focus, and currently the Ukrainians are trying to develop their offensive operation in direction of Novopokrovka and in direction of Verbovo. For example, they have already accumulated significant number of forces and started pushing slowly, step by step. And also the Ukrainians started artillery preparation against Verbovo itself. For example, in this video we see how the Ukrainians managed to discover the Russian operational ammo depot along the forest lines, and as a result of artillery strike, that ammo depot was destroyed. Furthermore, the Ukrainians published the video how they discovered another ammo depot, but in this situation the ammo depot was located inside of Verbovo. Also, as a result of artillery strike, that ammo depot was destroyed. So basically, as I understand, I'm not sure about the destiny of Robotino and whether the Ukrainians are able to capture the settlement or not, but as I understand and know for sure, the Ukrainians will turn their focus within the next hours, not even days, and will try to develop their offensive operation in the area between Verbovo and Novopokrovka. There was a lot of videos about evacuation of Ukrainian soldiers. The Ukrainians had significant losses. And also would like to discuss with you another video, the appearance of the Challenger on the combat line. This is a very interesting piece of news, and both sides, either the Russians and the Ukrainians, try to momentum the situation with Challengers. And I'll explain to you why both sides, either the Russians and the Ukrainians, try to develop the story of Challenger. First of all, when talking about the Ukrainians, they're trying to create a media-like situation that modern weapon, battle weapon is involved in the combat in Zaporozhye area, which of course gives some strength, increase the spirit of Ukrainian forces on the combat line, because they understand that Ukrainians still have like manpower, armored vehicles, equipment, and that will continue their offensive operation. But when talking about the Russians, they are making completely opposite media atmosphere by saying that Ukrainians, by involving the Challengers on the combat line, have involved the final, let's say, brigades of strategical reserves, let's say like 82nd Air Assault Brigade. You need to understand one thing, that either the Russian forces and the Ukrainian forces who are currently located on the Zaporozhye area, and to be more precise, I'm talking about Russian side, haven't got any rotation since the beginning of June. So imagine yourself, the forces in Robotino have been fighting with the Ukrainians since the beginning of June without any rotation. It's a very difficult process. Every single day you're like in face of death, and they're very tired. And the Russians, by saying about Challengers, try to give a hope for these soldiers that this operation is going to end very soon. So this is like attempt from the Russian side to reduce the pressure and to reduce the situation to normalize the situation among the personnel on the combat line, because the situation is difficult. We see that Ukrainians haven't managed to enter the northern part. The situation is getting critical. The soldiers are tired. I doubt basically with this challenge story, the Russians are trying to give them a hope that soon this is going to be finished, because this is the final brigade, the final tanks, and after that everything will be finished. I'll tell you, nothing is going to be finished in a week or two. The Ukrainians still have a lot of reserves. Currently, the Ukrainians are trying to adopt another law regarding about the mobilization, and they're planning to mobilize another 2,000-3,100 soldiers. So this war is going to be continued the next year as well. And that's it for this short update regarding Kherson and Zaporozhye area. A military summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.